bringing you unique perspectives from inside the world of addiction and mental health recovery. This is Recovery Unscripted.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Recovery Unscripted, a podcast powered by Foundation's Recovery Network. I'm David Condos. Today's guest is Steve Ford, the son of President Gerald Ford and addiction awareness pioneer Betty Ford. For this episode, he sat down with Foundation's Chief Marketing Officer Lee Pepper at the Moments of Change conference in Florida, where he shared the personal journey he's traveled from the White House to Hollywood to addiction and ultimately to new life in recovery.
Steve, I want to welcome you to our 50th National Conference here at Moments of Change 2017. It was our honor to have you open up our sessions this morning with really an inspiring talk about your family and your personal journey. And it was just so refreshing, and we're just honored to have you here.
Thank you, Lee. Listen, you had a great audience, people working in the industry, trying to transform people's lives. And, I'm honored to be clean and sober and, the grace of God in my life and a good 12-step program. So,
one of the things as I was listening to the opening part of your talk today was I was struck by some of your comments in regards to when you were there with your family and with your father, when you convened outside your family home's the front door and you rang or knocked on the door and your mother opened the door. And I think you give a lot of credit to your father and to your family to being strong enough to kind of just muddle their way through this kind of probably an early form of intervention.
It was an early form of intervention. I mean, at that time, this was back in the 70s, our family, we'd never heard the word intervention. And we had a mother who was losing her life and it was slipping away. And my dad found the right doctors to convince us we could do this and wake her up, basically. We went in and did that intervention, and Dad, beautifully led it and just convinced Mom, we're here because we love you. Your kids want you back. I want my wife back. I don't want to lose you. And we were just a wake-up call, and Dad held her hand and walked her through. And the interventions are tough. They are. This is hard work. But you got to start somewhere, and there's people out there that can help you and walk you through it. And but like I say, we woke her up. She did the work afterwards, and it was a blessing.
I told you earlier before we went on the air, we get so many phone calls, and not just foundations, but really inside the whole industry, because there's 23 million Americans that need help. And I think for a lot of people that call in, especially family members, they have gone through this situation where they've been lied to, they've been stolen from. And I think that the words that you said that you reinforced to your mom was, "We love you." I think that that's where it's got to start.
Yeah, in our case, Mom had been prescribed legitimate prescription pills for a pain management that was legitimate. She had pinched nerve in her neck and problems, but it developed into what happens with a lot of people. You combine that with, not a lot of alcohol and prescription medication. You get a cocktail that creates this, a life that you're losing your life. And, Mom, it's interesting. Mom changed the face of addiction back in the 70s when, the old stereotype was it was the Skid Row bum or whatever that was using alcohol or addict. And here you had a former first lady raise her hand and say, "My name is Betty, I'm an alcoholic." It turned the recovery community upside down and really moved it forward to say that, your neighbor down the street, the person you work with at the office, could also have these same problems. And it opened the doors for people to come and get treatment and think about it, have the courage to come in and make a phone call or get some treatment.
I think that as you were then fast forwarding through your family's journey and your personal journey, I was struck that when you identified that you needed help, that you took a little bit of a different path. And I think that's one of the messages that we try to get across to people, is that everybody's going to walk their own path or create their own journey. And a lot of times people want to reach out to us and they say, "I just want to send Johnny or Jill to you, and I want you to fix them in 30 days, and that's just not possible.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, Mom went through a residential treatment facility when she got sober and clean, and when it happened with me, not many years after Mom, 10 plus years afterwards, I too was raising my hand and saying, my name is Steve and I'm an alcoholic. I should have known better. Betty Ford was my mother. I had enough education around me, but that tells you how sneaky a disease it is. It doesn't care. And I didn't go through residential treatment. I just picked up the phone book, found out where some AA meetings were, and I started going to AA meetings. I went to 90 meetings in 90 days, and that was where my recovery came from. So there's a lot of vehicles. The important thing is to have the courage to take that first step. There are people waiting. There's safety nets out there. It's okay to talk about it today. We aren't where we were 40 years ago. There's a lot of help out there.
In your talk, you referenced that everybody's sobriety is fragile, and you said, and I think you pointed to one of the side doors, and you said, my addiction is right outside those doors, and a lot of people turned and looked, and then you said, and they're doing push-ups.
Yeah. My addiction, it's a daily battle. I talk to a lot of young people, schools, prisons, juvenile detention facilities, and I tell those kids, my addiction doesn't care that I was the son of a former president, doesn't care I'm the son of Betty Ford, doesn't care I was an actor or worked on movies or anything. My addiction is out that door every day waiting for me doing push-ups, and it's a daily process it's a community. I mean, you can't do this by yourself. It's a community. It's like you have a blazing fire and you take one single coal out and put it on the mantle of the fireplace. What happens to it? It goes out. Mm-hmm. It can't survive. But if you stay within that community, that fire, you'll be able to fight it every day.
One of the closing comments you had that really struck a chord with me, and I think a lot of the audience members that have young kids, was this notion of, are you plugged in to the right things? And I think today, when I look at trying to raise my two boys into young men, is making sure they're plugged in to those right things.
When I talk to young people, I make that analogy that I was like a refrigerator plugged into the wrong thing, right? I wasn't plugged into electricity to make it work. And I was rotting on the inside, because that's what would happen to whatever you put into a refrigerator. If you're not plugged into electricity, it ain't happening, and you're going to rot inside, all the meat and vegetables. Well, that's what I was. I was not plugged into the right thing, and I might have looked great on the outside, shiny, and wow, that's, he works in movies, he's the president's son. But if you open the door to my soul, I was rotting on the inside, and you got to stay plugged into the right thing.
Well, Steve, I just appreciate you being willing to come down to Palm Beach today to speak to us. Will you be speaking anywhere else over the next few months, or what's in store for you and your journey?
I'm constantly traveling around a lot. I do a lot of corporate speaking, but I also do events like this. And listen, there's a lot of work to be done out there. There's a lot of people that need help and need to get into recovery, and it really is a story of hope when you think what this industry has come from 40 years ago, and it's okay now. It's okay to get help. It's out there. Doctors are finally getting trained. There's centers. There's places for children. There's places for adults. But make that first step. Make a contact. Find out a place you can get some help.
Well, Steve, again, thank you so much for coming here today, and we're just so honored that you shared your story and opened up about your mom and your dad, too, which is wonderful to hear.
Thank you, Lou.
Great. Thank you so much,
All right.
Steve.
God bless you.
All right.
Yep.
This has been the Recovery Unscripted podcast. Today we've heard from Steve Ford. For more on his work with his late father's foundation, visit GeraldRFordFoundation.org. If you've enjoyed this episode, please pass it along to someone else who might enjoy it as well. We'd love to have your help spreading the word. See you next time.